Hi guys, it's Stevie Ray, and I just got interviewed by Keith on the KeithAndrewNetWork. He's a really great guy, and I'm proud to be a supporter of him. Keep up the good work. Follow my Instagram and Forcer at Stevie_Ray10_official. See you next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Keith Andrew Network. I'm here with Stevie Lights. It's a real honor and privilege to have you as a guest. I just want to say welcome to the Keith Andrew Network.
Hello. Good, how are you, Keith? Good, how are you, Keith?
Pretty good, yourself?
Good.
I take it this is your first time doing an interview.
No.
Oh, don't worry, we're going to have fun with this. No reason to be nervous. For people who want to know what the Keith Andrew Network is about, the whole point of my talk show is to show you that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for let me do that again. Whole point of my talk, see, if you're nervous, you got to make me nervous. Whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. To prove to them and still amount to something. So that being said, it's going to be 28 minutes of your time, PG-13. But you can say anything you want, talk about whatever you want. That's completely up to you. And now, as you are a up-and-coming professional actor, what inspired you to become an actor, and do you miss being a kid?
Well,
what I mean by that is, how do you balance the two out? How to say, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, but at the same time, I just want to be an ordinary kid. I do apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's fine. Well, I was watching my favorite TV show on TV, and I just got inspired by them, and I said to my mom, I want to be like them one day. So she was like, so do you want to be an actor? And I said, yes. So we got into doing all this stuff, and then I got into a lot of jobs and a lot of auditions, and that's how it all started.
No, that's very cool. It's funny because when I was in my sophomore year in 2004, the one movie that influenced me and impacted my life was Almost Famous. I wanted to go on tour, be a roadie, go on tours, Iron Maiden, Kiss, and Rush, the whole rock and roll thing. And later on, I decided it wasn't realistic because you have to pay to be on the road. You're not just going to be extra luggage. So about 2008, I came across a USA show called Suits. I would recommend it, season 1 to season 4. Anything after that, it kind of gets stupid. So only watch the good ones. You can tell when it gets dumb, but 1 to 4 is really good. But I would say I wanted to be like Mike Ross. I wanted to have a boss like Harvey Specter. And I was like, okay, let's take some acting classes. So that's something I'm going to add to in a couple of minutes. But for me, it felt like a gamble because it's like, oh, if you take acting classes, it's $600 in semester 1. Then you have to take the class again, but it's $1,200. And then you're like, well, I just paid $2,400. Now thinking, if you pay $2,400, you guaranteed to get something out of it, not empty your wallet and be like, well, that was fun while it lasted. Now I have to pay it off. But what was some of your biggest accomplishments? But before you answer that, let me ask you this. Have you ever taken any acting classes, and are you taking any acting classes?
Yes. And the acting classes I take is with Adam Tate.
Now, for people who don't know what that is, can you give us an example of who they are?
Yes. The acting classes with Adam Tate is for kids that want to be on Nickelodeon, and he basically walks you through all the things that you need to know.
All right. Now, it's just Nickelodeon, and for an example, if someone wanted to be on Disney, if it's, I can't even speak, is that the same exact thing, or is that something completely different?
It's the same.
All right. Well, while we're on the subject, just throwing it out there, what are you a fan of more? Do you want to be a Nickelodeon like iCarly, iSam, Jake and Joss, or you want to be on Disney where it's just drawing a blank? Those two short blonde kids, they look like twins. Real life or something. I don't know. If you see the show, you know what I'm talking about. But the two look like twins. That's So Raven. Did any of those shows influence you to say, this is the direction I want to go into? Because you did mention you want to be an actor, but you're apparently taking classes for Nickelodeon. But do you want to be a Nickelodeon kid, or do you want to be a Disney kid, or does it really make a difference?
I'd really like to be both.
Good question. I mean, good answer. It's always good to keep your options open. Now, the next one I want to ask you is, because you took acting classes, how many years have you been taking acting classes?
I've been taking acting classes for 4 years.
And have you ever been in any classes with any upcoming stars who was like, oh, I know I saw you on Nickelodeon, or weren't you on Disney? Any of those people you came across, or?
No, I've gotten to work with actress Julia Garcia. She's
I
on
heard.
She's on Signe to the Max.
Oh, pretty cool. I should definitely look her up at some point. Maybe I can get her as a guest. Now, the next question I want to ask you is that trying to find something good. With everything that you accomplished, apparently you have a bright future ahead of you. But take us through the steps. You saw something on TV, you wanted to do that, your parents are very supportive and they're helping you with that. But what was that very first show that you seen, said, you know what, this actually made an impression on me? And let's actually just take it from there. What was the very first show that made that impression and say, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
The show that I watched that made me want to say that was Lab Rats. It was my favorite show, and I just really liked the characters.
Do you have any regrets about, saying any, for drawing a blank, say, do you want to be an on-air character, or do you think being behind a character, behind the screen, for that matter? Let me do that again. I just had a brain fart. Do you want to be an on-air character where people get to see you and do commercials, or do you want to be, yes, I did it, but I feel more comfortable doing voiceovers?
I would love to be on the screen. Sorry.
Well, it's always good to keep your options open. I interviewed a lot of people who are voiceover actors. I interviewed Richard Epcar. I interviewed Kerrigan Mayhem. Richard Epcar does the Mortal Kombat versus DC fighting games. Kerrigan Mayhem did Goldar from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And they seem to prefer behind the camera. But given, the option, they probably would have jumped for it, be on camera. The next question I was going to ask you, I saw on your post today that you are now a new influencer for, I think it was like Foster.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got signed up to that myself. I got bored of it, but after I signed up. But what could you tell us about it? And if you don't want to answer, you don't have to.
No, Forster is a new company that allows you to hold data I'm at your own data, sorry.
Don't worry, I have that effect on people. But I sign up to, and I'm like, oh, if you're doing it, then I should do it too. And I was like, huh, this website's really slow. Just giving them little pointers, but they should actually speed up the website. But there's actually other brand ambassador sites. I like to have you as a brand ambassador if that's possible. I'm always looking for people to network with and help out and inspire. But another one, but I would recommend, it's called FamePick. FamePick is pretty much, you tell them what your Instagram following is, your Twitter too, and then they will tell you, okay, based on your numbers, here are the companies you could work with. Not really anything that jumps off the top of my head. Now, no Skechers or North Face, but like up and coming, shoe companies, DC shoes, you can submit to. So keep your options open for both of them. But I'm going to ask you, what do you enjoy more, being a model or being an actor?
I love them both.
And what about being a model that you enjoy?
I like being a model because we can see all these like new clothes and be like out there, and expressions.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Now, what inspired you to be an influencer? I know I asked you about the brand ambassador, so pretty much it's the same thing. But what about being a brand ambassador that caught your interest?
I want to be positive role model for other kids.
And with everything that you accomplished up to this point, do you think you are well, I think you are a positive role model. Do you think that gave you the self-confidence to say, with everything I've done, I am a great influencer on people? Like, if you walked up to a group of people, could you influence them to follow in your footsteps? Or at least make an impression?
You can only do your best.
I agree. Now, what are the next steps for you? Is there any projects in the work that you're working on? Is there any famous people that you definitely want to work with?
I would love to work with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Nice. He seems like a nice guy. Very funny too. Yeah, you can say I'm copying his hairstyle. Apparently, he pulls it off better than I do. Now, the next question I want to ask you is social media. I know this one doesn't really dictate so much to you because you're pretty much in the limelight and you're following the steps, taking acting classes, and all that. But what is your opinion? Do you think Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, do you think your numbers dictate if people should follow you? Or do you think it's just there for people to use?
I think that the numbers are just there to see that people are following, and the numbers don't really matter. It matters about you and yourself and your personality.
No, absolutely. The one thing that you need to have, and I need to have, is that ability to connect with the audience. If you can connect with 100 people, those people will be your backbone. And those people can go out on a whim and say, you have the potential to be, as you said, and as you mentioned, you like The Rock, you could be the next Rock or John Cena. You need to connect with people. So the biggest thing I would say to you is my regret was I pretty much said, hey, I had this great idea, throw crap against the wall, see what sticks, and just dive into it head first. But that's a big mistake. Going back now, after almost 7 years, this June will be 7 years. You can plug that in a couple minutes. Is the very first step you need. It's a plan A, and that's making a solid foundation on anything. So making a fan page and saying, this is my story, and this is how people can get behind me. After you make a solid foundation, I can speak. At the time you make a solid foundation, you can take it to the next step. You know, it could be either Instagram or Twitter. You need at least 1,000 people on Facebook, and those 1,000 people will carry over to the next subject. And that next subject could be you're now using Instagram, and that can carry over to using YouTube, and that can carry out. See, it starts a domino effect that you start small, and you're gonna climb that ladder one step at a time. But the thing I want to ask you is, not to sound arrogant or anything, but I want your honest opinion. With everything that you accomplish as of right now, do you think that kind of gives you a chip on your shoulder and say, I'm kind of better than this person? Or are you going to be the same person as you always will be?
I would be the same person as I always will be.
Good answer. That's the promise I made to myself. I said, it doesn't matter if I become an A-lister. Doesn't matter if it's a B-lister, C-lister. I'm going to have one foot in reality. You know, I'm going to be the same person who I always was. And I'm going to have one foot in the entertainment world. You know, being on TV, you know, the whole paparazzis. You need to keep yourself balanced. So remember, keep everything 50-50. Because it's 50-50, everything is balanced. Once you start making things unbalanced, that's where you start making mistakes. For an example, Justin Bieber, you know, he let his ego go to his head. You look at Kid from Home Alone, you know, he self-destructed, he turned to drugs. You look at Hannah Montana, or whatever you pronounce her name, Miley Cyrus. You know, same exact thing. You cannot let fame take you over. As someone once said to me, that's what I'm going to say to you, you're going to meet the same people going up as you're coming back down. So don't burn any bridges, regardless if you don't like somebody. You just get up, you shake their hand, and say thank you for your time. Because you never know when that person's going to come back, and an opportunity may come for him and say, hey, do you know anything about Stevie? Or Stevie, you want to put a good word in. So it's always good to be respectful and be positive, regardless of what happens or what's thrown in your way. But next, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to actually pass the show over to you and ask you a couple more questions.
Hi, I'm Paisley Blackburn.
I'm Ashley Burgess.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Abney.
Hi, I'm Sharon Spank.
Hey, this is Samantha Moore.
Hi, I'm Melody Jones.
Hi, my name is Becky Yee.
Hi, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Keith Andrew Network. This is episode 672. I'm here with my buddy Stevie. Now, it's the last couple minutes left. I'm going to pass it over to you. But the first thing I do want to plug is, of course, social media. You know, before I pass the show over to you and you can talk about all the social media, I want to plug one thing. June 13th, it's going to be my 7-year anniversary. So everyone can go to my fan page. I hope you will join us via Zoom. I can even speak. Hint of the show, disabilities. So June 13th, 5 o'clock Eastern. If you're on the West Coast, that's going to be 2 o'clock. For 40 minutes, I'm going to talk about how I created my talk show, how I overcame all these obstacles with having a disability. What's the last 20 minutes of the show, our audience will actually get to come in and ask and talk about anything they want. So now passing the show over to you. Was there any funny stories like you want to talk about? Any questions you want to ask me?
Yes. I want to talk about Forster. Forster is a new social media platform that you can get sorry, up your own information, data, sorry. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. Please go check it out and friend me.
No, absolutely. Now, actually, this is a very good question I want to add to. Do you get more requests for acting roles on Instagram, or was there any websites you say, if it wasn't for this site, I wouldn't be where I am?
Actors Access.
Heard about them. The one thing I don't like about it is you do have to pay, but of course everything is not free. So you have to give a little to get a little. But what about, let's see? There's actually LinkedIn. I would actually recommend you get in a LinkedIn because you can introduce yourself to producers and storytellers that can actually create stories for you and roles. Another website I would recommend is Stage 32. So you have LinkedIn, Stage 32. Facebook is hit and miss. LinkedIn did it right. Twitter is pretty good. But let me ask you this. With everything that you have, what are your biggest strengths? You mentioned that you are an influencer, a model, and an actor. With that being said, what are your biggest strengths and what are your biggest weaknesses?
Well, my biggest strengths are, well, what do you mean by that?
Okay, well, I gave you a question that they always ask me on a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let's do that one. Why should we hire you for this role? When someone asks you that question, what comes to mind?
Well, I can act really good, and I can play the emotions, and I can do all the other side parts and all the main parts.
Well, if you may, let's do a little example. If someone told you to be extremely happy, could you do that on the spot?
Yes.
Could you give us an example?
Yes.
I know a lot of people don't like being put on the spot, but I'm just saying if you're an actor, that's one of the things we're going to ask you to be spontaneous. Look at Jim Carrey. Look at Robin Williams. There's George Carlin. There's Ray Romano. Those people have so much energy that even if they say do one thing, they probably go off a tangent and do a whole bunch of other crazy skits that will say, you know what, you're perfect. But what would be your strongest accomplishment, not accomplishment, your strongest strength? So out of all these people in a room, say you're in a room with 6 people, what makes you stand out the most to say, you know what, this kid has the looks, he has the potential, but how do you perceive that to pass it over and say, this is the point where is either a yes or no if this person has it? How do you make them say yes?
I can make you feel something.
All right. But what is your biggest fear?
The word no.
I hear that a lot. But as someone once told me, no doesn't always mean no. You should take that as, okay, I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. Earlier today, I reached out to a restaurant company. He was a producer, and I introduced myself, same way I did to you and your mother. This is who I am. This is my story. I'd like to invite you to be a guest on the show. He said, no, thank you. And I'm like, I didn't take no for an answer. I was like, okay, how can I ask the same question, but in a different way? So I said, do you think I'm good enough with the story I have for that to motivate people? Of course, I didn't hear back, but when someone says no to you, that's not a nail in a coffin. That's a no as in not now in this point of time. People said to me, 7 years ago that I wasn't going to amount to anything. And I asked people, hey, would you like to be on the show? And they said no. 7 years later, most of those people who said no to me, came around and said, we thought it was a scam. We thought, hey, it was a good story. Because anyone can tell a story. But what makes you a good storyteller is putting your heart and passion into it. So no is not the final answer. It's no as in maybe 2020 isn't the right time. Maybe 2022 would be a better opportunity. And better opportunities will come to you down the road. But I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up, do you want to plug your social media?
Yes. Please follow me at Stevie_Ray10_official on Instagram. And Forcer.
No, absolutely. And don't worry, on the second half of the show, when we took a commercial break, our Instagrams will be on the bottom of the screen. Now, the last question, how I end every other show that I do, is when I first approached you, I want you to be brutally honest. When I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your honest first reaction? What made you say yes? And after being a guest, how do you feel now, and what do you recommend it for other people?
Well, I did my research and
You can say anything you want.
Sorry. And I thought you were awesome.
Well, I'm glad I'm making an impression on you. But, it's that, but what's that being said, it's very hard to make that first impression. Because, obviously, you're in California, I'm in New York. It's kind of like that. When you first meet someone, you have the first, and remember this, when you first meet someone, you have the first 10 seconds to make a good impression. So stand up straight, extend your hand, and just have confidence about you. Don't be shy, don't doubt yourself, because if you do that, then that shows that you're kind of hesitant and you're not really confident in yourself. Doing this talk show has given me so much confidence. As I mentioned off the air, I used to work in a bunch of retail stores, and I used to hide behind the badge. For an example, I worked, not saying any names, but when I worked at one place, like, hey, my name is Keith. If you need me, I would purposely show my name tag. Let me know. Now, when I see an opportunity, I jump at it, saying, you know what? I want to make it impression. That's why I came to you. I want to make an impression on you. So you can be like, with all the acting interviews that I did, with all the roles I did, one thing I remember is this guy, Keith, was nice enough to extend his hand in friendship and give me an opportunity to motivate myself more. Wrapping up our talk show, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.